So this is our podcast about Disney and whether they're pushing gender stereotypes. I'm Gracie. I'm here with
Chloe-Monet.
Macey.
It's going to be quite confusing with the names, but we'll make it through. It'll be fine. So we're going to just be talking about Disney in general, what our opinions are, why we think it's good, why we think it's bad, and if we think they're trying to push gender stereotypes, if that's changed or if it's getting better or worse. So basically, yeah. So first of all, I just want to say, flipping huge Disney fan.
Same. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Not that much.
I really appreciate it. I think it's because you're really into horror films. Yeah. So it's not...
12-year-old me was sitting there watching Friday the 13th.
Yeah, and all the slasher films.
Yeah, you guys are oh my god, Disney princesses.
But yeah, so I really like them. I still like them now. I'm not 17 and love Disney films. That's pretty much me. So I don't really have a problem with them in general, but I feel like they do have some issues with their gender representation, the gender stereotypes they push, their body stereotypes they push, their whole kind of representation of masculinity and femininity is slightly questionable, is I think the right word. Problematic, exactly. It's very problematic. But yeah, so that's slightly problematic. So I think we should basically we did some research into different films, and we kind of found out, I guess, some messed up stuff about it. So who wants to go first? Who found the most messed up stuff about Disney?
I don't think it's messed up.
I think mine's all quite rational, to be fair.
Well, I've got some pretty messed up stuff, so it's cool.
Oh, let's go with that.
Okay, I can start, that's fine. Hold on. Right, so the first one that I wanted to research was Snow White, because it was the first feature-length Disney film. It won so many Oscars. It was the beginning of Disney's career. It kind of launched their whole company, and it was very exciting. But then you look into the actual kind of story behind it, and it's excessively
really
problematic.
And quite unnerving.
Yeah, so it's quite rough. So I think it's really horrible. So I think it's probably best if we start kind of chronologically. So start at the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
Compare it. So first of all, it made a lot of money, especially considering what time it came out in. So it made $418 million at the box office. So you think that's even a lot of money now, but when it came out, it came out in 1938. So
if it had made a couple of hundred, they would have still been whoa.
We can launch a whole company over this, and think what a huge Disney conglomerate it is now. It's geez. So that kind of started it off. So the directors are David Hand, Wilfred Jackson, and Larry Morey. Ben Sharpstein, William Cottrell, Pierce, which I don't know if that's a comedy name, but they're spelt differently, so I don't know. I honestly was so confused by that. But okay,
didn't like him.
No, obviously not. Obviously, his parents were not a fan. But the fact they needed so many directors says a lot about the way, the fact that no one had really made feature-length animations before. It was okay, we're going to make a film and it's going to be an animation, but it needs to be a long one. Basically. So I think that's pretty exciting. At the same time, the actual Snow White story and the whole idea of it's quite problematic. So
it's a
bit worrying.
The Grimm Brothers fairy tale versions. Oh gosh.
Yeah. So I did some research into the Grimm Brothers fairy tale version, and I was absolutely horrified by what I found. I knew that it was a little bit dodgy anyway. In the Disney version, she's 14.
Yeah, people don't know that. People are oh yeah, well, it's fine.
It's True Love's Kiss, whatever. No, it's not. She's 14.
She's a child.
She's still legally a child, and she just gets kissed in the by a prince in the woods when she's apparently dead. So it's already quite worrying.
Same thing with Sleeping Beauty, though.
Yeah.
Old men
Yeah, exactly. So in the Grimm's fairy tale version, the way that it starts is the queen. The original queen, not the evil queen, the OG queen. She basically is sitting at a windowsill and is sewing something, and it's snowing outside. And so she sees that it's snowing, and she pricks her finger, and she sees her blood on the snow and thinks, oh, it looks so beautiful with the blood in the snow and the black windowsill. So she wished for a daughter, hair as black as ebony, skin as white as snow, and red lips red as blood. And you think there's something just already quite
it's a bit weird.
It's weird.
I mean,
is already quite problematic when you're like, okay, right, so you think, like, oh, I've cut myself. Oh, but look at these nice colour combinations. Like, yeah, I want a kid that looks exactly like this. A little bit odd,
I mean, it
okay.
kind of looks like the opening to a murder scene in CSI, like, what?
The CSI, yeah. CSI Disney division.
Exactly.
That sounds great. But yeah, so basically she wishes for this kid and then it kind of just happens. It never says that she gives birth. She just has this child.
Because that's just what happens.
Because that's what
films.
happens.
They just have children.
They just have children. It's impossible. Like,
they don't get pregnant.
No.
It's just children.
Pregnancy doesn't happen. But as soon as the baby's born, she dies, which I think is pretty upsetting. But it's a Disney film. All the Disney films, the parents die straight away.
Wasn't it Walt Disney's mother died?
Yeah.
And obviously he had like a personal vendetta
Yeah.
every other mother
Against parents being alive, yeah. So, like, literally every single Disney film, at least one of the parents is always dead.
Cinderella's mother is dead.
Cinderella's father is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Frozen, the parents die.
Both die.
In Tarzan, the
parents die. Lion King.
Exactly. It's like a... No, there is.
Tangled.
Tangled and Princess and the Frog.
Princess and the Frog,
Yeah,
yeah.
'cause she's got her mum, because her dad obviously dies in the war.
They're like, they diverge from like
From like the normal,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, she died and she got an evil stepmother, like that kind of thing.
That's kind of more traditional. So yeah, basically, mum dies. Like, obviously, it's a Disney film. But anyway, yeah, for the story, the mum dies as well. And then the king remarries this beautiful woman, but she's very cocky, very proud. She's like, I'm hot, and no one else is allowed to be hot because I'm so hot, basically. So then the dad dies as well, which, you know, it's kind of questionable how he dies.
Yeah.
It's very much like murder.
To be fair,
kind
the
of
Queen
situation.
probably killed him.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. She
It's
like
probably-
her title in the film is Evil Queen. She doesn't even have a name.
It's probably just like Hamlet. She probably
Yeah.
poured poison in his ear or something.
Most likely. Something went on, basically. And so she goes with the whole thing of like, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And then the mirror says to her every day, you know, oh, you are, you know, you're the beautiful. Yeah. So she's happy with that
And
for
then it
about...
turns around and it goes, yeah, well, you're not the fairest of them all. Actually, it's Snow White.
Well, the thing is in the original book, she's 7. When this all goes on, she's 7 years old. So, although Disney made her 14, they doubled her age from the Grimm's fairy tale version, where she was 7, and that's when she was hotter than the Queen when she was 7, which you kind of go, like, I get why the Queen was annoyed by that.
But it's a child.
Yeah, like it's
chill out.
creepy that, like, the mirror's gone, oh yeah, no, Snow White, yeah, she's
7.
She's 7, but she's so hot. It's like, okay, keep going with that, sure. So yeah, so it's a little bit concerning. So basically, the Queen orders a huntsman to take Snow White in the woods and kill her, which is kind of like the OG, like what they have in the Disney film as well. But in this one, she turns around and says to him, I want you to cut out her heart, her lungs, and her liver.
So I can eat it.
So she can eat it. And it's like, right, so you're just going to throw in cannibalism and just not even mention the fact, like, how messed up that is.
Yeah.
So, like, that's fine. But the huntsman goes into the forest and kind of, like, falls in love with her. Again, she's 7. So he can't kill her. So he's like, okay, you have to go. I'll kill a boar instead. So he kills the boar, takes the lungs, liver, and heart, and then take it to the Queen, and she eats it all while thinking it's Snow White. So it's like, right, cool. So then Snow White's wandering through the forest. She finds the dwarfs. She finds the house, sorry, and then she, like, passes out on the beds because she's so exhausted. And basically the dwarfs walk in and they fall in love with her as well. Again, 7 years old. And they, like, totally fall in love with her, and they're like, right, yeah, she can stay, it's fine, she can do our housework for us. She's like, you know, cool. Really pushing that gender stereotype, but cool. So yeah, so she was just like, you know, cool, I'll do the chores, no worries. So then the mirror tells the Queen that she is still the fairest. She isn't the fairest of them all. Snow White's still rumbling around. She's still, you know, doing her thing. And the Queen's not happy about that, obviously. So this is where it kind of changes from the original. So the Queen first disguises herself as an old woman, and she goes to the cottage where she lives, and she tries to sell her a corset, right? Again, why a 7-year-old is buying a corset is, you know, unknown. But she tries to sell her a corset. And so Snow White takes the corset. She's like, yeah, sure, I'll take a corset. Because, she's 7. She's stupid. And she, like does it up so tight that she can't breathe. So she collapses on the floor. The witch is like, okay, she's obviously going to die. So she goes. But the dwarfs come back just in time so they can, undo the corset and she can breathe again. It's fine. So they go, right, Snow White, don't do that again. Like, don't take things from strangers again. You silly girl. Just don't do it. The next day, the queen goes, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? The mirror goes like, yeah, no, it's still not you. It's still Snow White. She's still kicking about. And so she comes back she disguises herself as another old lady and comes back with some poisonous combs, like hair combs.
I've heard it went from like corsets to combs, and then in like the Disney film, it's apples.
Well, that does happen in the end, but basically she puts this cone in her hair. She immediately collapses because apparently that's how poison works.
I don't get how it goes. Like, if your hair's down here, how does it get to your scalp?
None of it makes sense. So she collapses. The queen again just runs off thinking like, oh, okay, my work is done, it's fine. And then like the dwarfs come back. They take the comb out of her hair, and then she just wakes up and she's totally fine. So it's like, cool.
She could have just taken it out of her hair.
Yeah. So that's fine. And then the queen goes, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the first of the wall. And she's like, again, the mirror's like, still not you. You just need to get better at killing people, obviously. So then the queen, hire an assassin, just do something. So basically, then the queen disguises herself as another old woman, and then she gets the poisoned apples, which is the one we all know.
Got a theme, guys, when it comes to poison.
So basically, the dwarfs say to her, listen, this has happened twice. Just don't open the door for anyone that you know isn't us. Like, we've told you twice, and you've been poisoned twice. Maybe just don't do it.
Yeah.
So she's like, right, all right, I won't do it, fine. Again, still 7 years old, so not the smartest, but okay.
But she still opens the door. She still has the apple, still gets poisoned.
So basically, the witch knocks on the door and she's like, let me in. I've got some apples. Do you want an apple? And she's just like, no, the dwarfs told me I couldn't let anyone in. And she goes, well, I'll open the window so you can hand me the apple through the window. It's like, how sarky is that? Like, well, I didn't actually open the door, so it's fine. I opened the window, so actually it's not my fault. So she like passes the apple through the window, she eats it, and then it's poisoned, she's dead. She's definitely dead this time. She's done. So the queen and then rides off, goes back to the goes back to her castle, is happy that she's dead. And then the dwarfs get home, see that she's dead, and puts her in a glass coffin, which, bit weird.
That's just what you do.
Yeah, definitely.
So
yeah.
just like putting her in a normal wooden box, putting her in the ground. Let's just put her in a glass coffin.
Because she's so pretty, we can't not have everyone see her, even though she's dead.
And
7 years old.
And 7. So one day the prince is riding through the forest and he sees this dead girl in a glass box, and the prince is 22.
Oh dear.
And he sees her and he thinks, oh my god, she's so gorgeous. And so he goes up to the dwarfs and says, I want to buy her. And the like,
a prostitute?
Apparently it's like what he wants for the dead girl is quite concerning, a dead 7-year-old. So the dwarfs are just like, okay, like they just are fine with it. So they like, okay, and then he goes, okay, I'll get some of my servants to come and get her, basically, and bring her back to the palace. And you're already like, okay, what the hell are you doing? Like, seriously, what's going on?
You're buying a 7-year-old girl, and why are you dwarfs soliciting this? Are you pimps?
The dwarfs are pimps. Conspiracy theory, the dwarfs are actually pimps.
Checks out.
Yeah, so basically, so she, like, they go off and get the servants, and they come back, and then the servants basically, like, drop the coffin or something.
Oh, no.
And then a piece of apple dislodges in her throat, and she wakes up. But the thing is, that's not how she died. She didn't die from choking. She died from being poisoned. I'm just like, what? That doesn't even make sense. What? I had to move on from there. And then basically, there's no kiss. There's no, like, magical kiss, which I guess is okay.
Slightly better, but it doesn't really help that he still bought a dead 7-year-old girl back to his castle.
Yeah, in classic Disney fashion, they wake up and they look at each other and then they fall in love and they get married. He's like, right, come on, let's get married. And she's like, sure, because, she's 7. And then the queen gets invited to the wedding.
Oh, yeah, and she has to dance to
She goes, yeah.
She
He's made to wear hot iron shoes and dance until she dies.
She dances till she's dead, guys.
And it's like, cool, but what?
But what?
And the whole aim of the story is like, don't take things from strangers or something. And he's like, no, don't let a 22-year-old man buy your dead body. That would be my main.
All evidence in the story.
That would be everyone's issue.
Yeah, that would be my main issue. Was the fact that like, or, you know, it's like, don't wish for your child to be, like, as red as blood and, like, snow and...
Basically, don't wish for a pretty child.
Yeah. Yeah, ugly kids don't get taken, it's fine. No, but yeah, so I was very concerned by that. So I guess, like, what we, you know, like, what we see in the film is, I guess, slightly better, but at the same time, like...
It's not entirely, like, great.
It's not great. And it's this whole idea of, like, she totally just takes... Like, she goes to the dwarf's house, and they're just like, okay, yeah, you do the housework for us. And she's just like, okay. And it's like, oh, great job. But then, again, it was made in the 1930s. Like, you know, I can have a bit of respect for the fact that, like, historical context, it does make sense.
That's what it was like.
But yeah, so that's the original story of Snow White. And I guess, like, you know, for the time it was made, I guess it would make sense why they were trying to scare kids and stuff like that so they wouldn't do bad things. But at the same time, like, scaring kids into submission, that old-fashioned parenting technique, apparently. But yeah, so that's what I found out about Snow White.
It was great.
Story time with Gracie.
What did I do? I did Princess and the Frog. Nice. So the Disney film is a lot better than the actual book itself. The book is more of just like a princess finds a frog, she kisses him, and he turns into a prince, and they get married, and everything's fine.
Which is boring.
But then Disney just does something so extra and just... they just like blow the whole thing out of proportion, like you forget about the original story. But I think it's really, really good because that's the film that created one of the it's one of the more ethnically diverse Disney films, if you like, because in this film it's about a girl called Tiana. She's got she's friendly with this girl called Charlotte, who is she's white, and she's part of like the rich part of society. But then the film's based in like 1912, so it's kind of understandable. And then Tiana, like, she can cook and everything, and her dreams to have a restaurant. Her dad dies.
Obviously, because in like classic Disney style, like one of the parents dies. Like he dies in World War One. Prince Naveen, some spoiled little brat.
I mean, the most attractive Disney prince.
Oh
though,
yeah,
like,
definitely.
No argument there.
Him and Flynn Rider are definitely up there.
Yes.
I like the fact though that like they just made him black, and there was no like question of like, well, actually,
he's a prince and he's black. It's like, okay.
Yeah,
so,
all right, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine about it. Yeah, I mean, I kind of respected that.
And his skeevy little white
butler. Yeah. What's he called again? Like Lawrence. Yeah, that like guy who's just like, oh my god, I hate my job, and it's like, okay, but like the fact that they've gone like, like reverse society where black people are on top.
Yeah.
I respect that.
And it's like she wants to buy a restaurant. The beginning of the film, she gets a load of money, which means she's able to buy a restaurant. She then works at her friend's little ball thing where the prince is supposed to be. But what happens is the prince is tricked by
the Shadow Man.
The Shadow Man, who, in my opinion, is one of the...
I love him.
I think he's great, but he's just... I think he's... like, I don't know, he's quite terrifying.
He's one of the scariest villains, I think.
Definitely.
This whole voodoo stuff is like, okay.
Tiana, and like, she finds herself on the balcony because her outfit gets ruined, and then she kisses a frog. The frog turns out to be the prince, and then they both turn into frogs. They go on this big, massive adventure to find this 197-year-old blind woman.
Oh my god, yeah.
Turn them back into humans.
Mama Oti is like, yes, like, she is the queen of every Disney film.
Oh, definitely.
I just love the fact that, like, she's so black stereotyped, but at the same time, like, you can kind of embrace it.
Yeah.
Like, the fact they've done it really well, I'm happy about. Like, if they did a really crappy black stereotype version of, like...
but I think they did it really well.
They did it well, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and then... what is it? Oh, gosh. I've lost the plot now. Yeah. So they meet her. She kind of goes, yeah, well, you've got to kind of find it. You've got to kind of, like... appreciate the things that you have. Stop wishing for more. You should just appreciate what you've got in life. And then Tiana, Naveen, Louis, and Ray.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Louis an alligator.
Who wants to be a jazz musician?
Yeah. Ray's he's like a lightning bug.
Oh my god.
He's in love with the moon. Oh my god. Ray and Evangeline's relationship is like serious couple goals. It's just like too much for me.
And then they get on a boat, they go back to New Orleans to go and stop the wedding because Naveen, who's actually Lawrence, is about to marry Charlotte. A lot of stuff happens.
A lot of stuff goes down.
Spoiler alert, Ray dies.
That part killed me inside, I'm not going to lie to you.
Top
Ray
10
dies.
saddest anime deaths.
Tiana and Naveen
Fall in love.
They're still frogs. So at the end of the film, they get married, like an unofficial wedding, and then they get turned back into humans
Because
and they get
she
legally-
turns into a princess
Yeah.
technically because he's a prince.
Yeah, and then they get legally married, and she finally opens her restaurant. It's a good film.
It's a great film.
However, she didn't need. She only got the restaurant once she married him, but then I
Yeah.
don't know whether that's because he
Paid for some of it,
or
or because
whether it was just because she just needed to become a human so she could give the estate agents the money back
yeah.
to pay for their
It's
thing.
yes, that part, like, I love it. It's one of my favorite Disney films,
Yeah.
hands down. And I think, like, the fact that they were trying to move ethnically, like, make it more ethnically diverse really helped. And also in New Orleans, like, that's a traditional black community, black French
Yeah.
community, so it worked for me.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
And I think they did really keep to that, like, whole historical context, but at the same time, the fact that, like, because I don't think he pays for it. Because that's the
No,
thing, she hands
because
over all the pennies
yeah.
and, like, all the cans that
I
she's
think she has
got.
the money to pay for it, but it's just
It's the fact
she's
that
a frog,
yeah.
and she can't pay for
No,
it.
but it's like before when she gives them the money, he goes like, "Oh, a woman from your background can't do
Yeah.
it," and it's like, "Oh, so you're saying because she's a black woman from a low class background,
Yeah.
she can't achieve anything?"
But then
and it's
if
like,
you think in the cultural context, like back then, that was kind of like
oh yeah, that was
for
the
them,
way.
That was
Yeah.
normal. Obviously, it's not.
It's not cool.
Her being black like didn't help her case, but then her also being a woman
Really
didn't help her
her
case.
I don't think
So
she needed to be as disabled and a lesbian, and she would have been in the worst case scenario in the world.
I think that I think her. To be fair, that's probably one of my favourite Disney films, but I
There
feel
are
like
there are
she-
issues with it.
To be fair, she didn't necessarily like meet Prince Naveen and like, oh, I need you to pay for like
Yeah.
the restaurant. Like she did all of that herself.
Yeah,
Like I think in the film she's 19 and he's something. I think he's 20.
Yeah.
Which to be fair, like in Disney standards, like that's
that's a decent
good.
age to
yeah,
get
that's
married.
a decent age because she's legal, he's legal. It's all good, and it's I just think that to be fair, it's quite a different Disney film because she's working two jobs.
Oh, 100%.
She is like I think the only Disney princess.
She's
who
the only
ever had,
Disney princess that's ever had a job. Yeah.
like two jobs, like let alone a job. She had
Has
two.
two.
Like she was working for herself.
yeah.
And I think that that's such like it's something that's really good to instill in like young
women.
people,
Yeah,
young
especially
women, young people, like especially like
Young
if you
black
work
women
hard,
who
yeah
feel like they can't get
yeah
anywhere.
exactly. It's like if you work hard, you can be anything, you can do anything you want. Yeah.
Overall. So do you think that, like, I don't know, do you think that something that bothered me, and I don't know if I'm like overanalyzing it or whatever,
Yeah.
but something that bothered me a little bit was like, although she was black, like her body shape and stuff was very similar to
Oh,
all
yeah,
the
no,
other
it was
Disney
like
Her hair
princesses.
is
stereotype.
nice, like, her hair, like,
Yeah.
that's not how that goes. Like,
Yeah, I
That
think
kind of
they
frustrated
should've-
me a
they
little
should've
bit.
done a bit more. I think the character development was like a bit weak.
Yeah.
But then it is in most Disney films. But however, I think it was slightly better than the other ones.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not just like with Naveen. It's not just like, oh, he's the prince. Like
He's like that
he's
token white boy.
He's just the prince.
Yeah.
He's the prince. He's spoiled. He's this, and this. And then with Tiana, it's she's this, and this. And then it's kind of like that with all the characters.
They do have a really good background. Yeah.
But then again, it's kind of not going too into
Yeah.
depth. Like there's things that they don't tell you.
Yeah.
Like when they show the picture of her dad, like you could see he was in
the
like,
army,
in the
yeah.
army, but you don't know whether he's still in the army or he's dead.
Dead. Yeah. Or like what's happened to
Yeah.
him.
You-
Yeah. You kind of. I guess that they were trying to be like discreet about it, but at the same time, there is
Yeah.
a bit of confusion. Like, okay, well, what happened to him then? Like,
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a bit
it's just there's
It's-
parts that they should have
yeah.
worked on. Yeah.
because I don't think they ever really go too into depth in their character development because they're like, oh yeah, we want the audience just focus on the cute little story and not the fact that the characters have serious issues
Yeah.
that need to be like worked
Addressed.
through. They need to be addressed like
Yeah.
thoroughly. Let's just it's just she's a princess.
So
and
she's
everything.
pretty and she's
Yeah.
like that skinny girl that's like really
Yeah.
gorgeous and all this kind of
I
stuff.
think but I think they could have done a lot more with her character, especially. I mean, I like her character, but I think they could have done a lot more, especially with her hair and things like that.
Yeah. Like her aesthetic wasn't as good as it could have been.
I appreciate it, but it was more like it was, I don't know how to say it, was like whitewashed in a way.
Yeah.
Like, it was she's dark skinned, like she's black,
but she's still really skinny, and she still has like white person hair, like this kind of
exactly.
Yeah, there's no.
I think that they could have done a lot more with that to make her seem like, kind of, I don't know, make it more believable in a way, because I think that they don't do that like with characters. Like,
they kind of just leave it.
They're like one dimensional, like
definitely,
and that's it. It's like, this is their name, this is part of their story. And that's that.
That's
you don't find out that anything's wrong with them until like halfway through the film. You're like, wait, hold on, what
have I missed?
I'm confused.
Yeah, and I think as well, like with her, like when we were talking to people about what they thought and whether they thought that like Disney were pushing those gender stereotypes, a lot of the guys that we talked to said about how in other Disney films, like men as characters were never. They're never, like, you never know anything about the male characters. Like, there's so many stories, like Disney films, where the prince's names are Prince Charming, and, like, the prince, and just that's it. And you don't know anything else about them. And it's like, I get that, you know, they may not be the main characters, but the thing I loved about Princess and the Frog is you actually did explore Naveen's character a bit more, and, like, how he was as a person. Which I really appreciated. I think it, like you said, like, they could have done more with characters, but I think they're probably one of the best that I've seen so far, in like sense of character development.
I didn't even know. This is also based off one of the Grimm's brothers fairy tales, as well as it just being Prince and the Frog. It's the Frog Prince as well, which is quite baffling. Yeah. But then if you think of those two stories and you think of the actual film, like, it's seriously like it's nothing like the actual
they've altered it a lot
at all. Like, they've like, you know what, it might be this tiny little story, let's make it into like an hour and a half film. Let's add all in these characters for no reason whatsoever, create a whole new persona like, for this whole story,
and let's make them black.
Exactly. I think,
and let's make them live in New Orleans.
Like, I
love it.
That was good. I think the cultural diversity of it was great, but I feel like it could have,
there were parts they could have improved on.
I think,
aesthetically,
definitely.
there could have been parts that were improved, but I think with character development is probably one of the best, and like the cultural as well, like the cultural development and the way, like even down to like the fact that food and soul food is such a big part of it, which in those communities in that time it was, that was such a huge thing. So I liked the fact they kept that.
It's like the best you're gonna get from a Disney film.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Culturally diverse is I think it's definitely, the rest of them are a little bit lacking. Especially, like, if you think about, like, Aladdin, that's not one of the ones we researched, but, like, Aladdin, there's, like, little nods at, like, the fact that they're Muslim, but there's no...
Like, they're Muslim. There.
You can talk about it, Like, I think there's, like, this line where he says to... When Aladdin's pretending to be Prince Ali, he goes, like, Allah forbid you ever have daughters and stuff like that. There's those little, like, sprinkles, and it's like, okay, that's great, but maybe, like, address it more and talk about the fact that she's in it, like, she's trying to be in an arranged marriage, and she obviously doesn't want to, and I feel like that's never properly addressed. It's like, she's fine with the idea of an arranged marriage until she meets this hot guy, and she's like, oh, no, actually, oh, no, it's fine. Like, she hates it, and then she sees a hot guy, she's like, oh, yeah, no, forget it, I'm fine with being in an arranged marriage. And you just think, no. I think that's not really pushing.
Aladdin as a film is quite...
Yeah,
it's definitely questionable.
Pretty much every character in that is voiced by a white person.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's not how that works.
It's definitely
it's just
questionable.
It's one of the less realistic films. I mean, like it's a Disney film.
But culturally, it's questionable.
Yeah, and I mean, Aladdin doesn't even have he's just got a chest. Like, where are his nipples? Like, what? It's not realistic enough.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it's the whole thing with Jafar, like falling in love with Jasmine.
Oh God, it's really creepy.
I can't watch that film because that just makes me cringe. I just think it's awful.
The one redeeming quality of that film is Robin Williams as the
genie.
genie.
Yeah, no, definitely. If he wasn't in that film would have been a flop.
It would have been a flop.
Seriously would have been
a big old flop.
Crap.
But yeah, like this whole thing of like how, you know, when like Jafar near the end is like he becomes this all-powerful person.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I want Jasmine to fall in love with me. And she turns into this like sex slave type thing, which is like, oh, Jafar, your beard is so curly. And it's like, it's just so inappropriate. And it just makes me feel so gross.
No, but it is so like... He's like, I want Jasmine to fall in love with me, but then it's like, you're obviously coded to be this feminine character, and you have like these traits of like a queer guy with his queer coding. Which is gross. And it's just like, it's weird that he's like coded that entire time as that typical feminine villain, but then his entire thing is, I just want her to fall in love with me. I want to have all this power. And
Like,
oh.
Well, you've kind of just like kicked yourself in the face there.
Yeah, I think, like, as well, like, this whole thing about, like, queer coding is really good point, actually, because if you think about, like, a lot of the villains, they all are very, I don't want to say extra, because that seems like a really basic term, but, like, they're all very effeminate, and then all the heroes are always very masculine, and, like, I feel like that really pushes that idea.
Kind of like, oh yeah, well, the villain's supposed to be these big strong men, but actually they're really, really feminine, so basically we're just trying to portray women
as
in this
being
whole aspect.
But then when there are female villains, they're often, like, coded quite masculine and do, like, anti-women things.
So I get what they're trying to do, but at the same time, it's like, I don't like this whole idea of, like, if you're a man and you're feminine, that means you're an evil character. Like, this whole idea is really pushing
you could be a strong male character.
Yeah. I mean, you can be a strong male character and still want to wear earrings and still want to wear a dress, like, no shame.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think, like, as well, if you think about, like, for example, like in Princess and the Frog, the Shadow Man, he's like fitted with, like, he wears so much really purple and pink, and like he's got earrings.
Everything he's wearing is just so tight.
And the way he moves.
Yeah,
exactly.
Very, very feminine. And then you have, like, Naveen. I know he's a frog for most of it, but, like, even then he's, like, still very masculine. Like, when you're introduced to him, although he likes music, so maybe he'd be a bit more sensitive, he's
like,
still...
oh, look, women, wow, love that.
He's very soft masculine, And although, like, I suppose that's better, it's still encoding that whole idea of, like, any male who's feminine is, like, evil, and that's okay, and any female who's masculine is evil, and that's okay. And I really hate that whole idea. It's the whole idea of, well, it's like when you have, like, radical feminists who turn around and say, oh, well, if you want to be a stay-at-home mum, you're a bad feminist. It's like, no, the whole idea is giving people a choice. If they want to work, they can work, and they should be able to earn a good wage. And I'm going off on a tangent, but it's me. That was bound to happen.
Shocking.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just feel like that whole idea of, like, oh, you know, you can be who you want to be. It doesn't take away from the fact you still want equal rights.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
But yeah, so I feel like they're pushing those kind of, like you said, encoded stereotypes of, like, these butch women are normally bad. Like, go butch women and go feminine men. We're all for it. Like, be who you are. And if you want to wear earrings and a dress, good for you. If you want to, like, wear trousers and be that masculine, go for it. So yeah, so Macey, what did you find?
Well, I think, I did Hercules because obviously Hercules is, like, my favourite Disney film.
It's such a good film. I love Hercules.
But it's like, I haven't watched it in ages, and you go back and look at it and you're like, oh,
because Hercules,
my fave is problematic.
It's like, oh, like, he's the son of a god, and he was all wimpy, and then, like, he's got all these powers, and now he's all muscly, and oh, it's like when he meets Phil, and Phil's like, yeah, actually, I don't think I can work with you, you're weak. Let's butch you up. Let's, like,
literally.
Get some meat on those bones, and it's just, it's just not... It's not very good.
No, it's slightly problematic again.
I think though Meg is quite different for one of the princesses.
She's like, I like
for what I did my research. What I did, it was like, for a lot of it, it's like Meg is like this, like, she goes against the stereotypes, but at the same time adheres to them. So it's like she'll have moments where she's very, I'm like, I don't need a man to save me. I'm very independent. But then at the same time, by the end of the film, she's being saved by a man. And she's trapped by another man in like this whole situation, and it's like,
I mean, I get it, but at the same time, the reason that she's under Hades' control is because she sold her soul for her boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly.
And her boyfriend ran off with another girl. Like,
I mean, I would be annoyed about that as well, don't get me wrong. I'd probably swear off guys.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, it's this whole idea of, like, she tries to go against the stereotype, but she
doesn't even, like, she would be very, like, worried about going into another relationship if her last boyfriend had literally screwed her over that bad, but then they don't give her the chance to actually have that character arc of accepting, I love this guy, I want to be with him. It's just, she has that one song where she's like, no, I don't want to be in love, but then by the end of that song, she's like,
oh, actually, I do.
Oh,
what can I do about it?
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
But yeah, I think as well, like, the whole thing with Hercules, I love it, it's one of my favourites, but this whole thing of, like, how big and macho he is, this whole idea that he's just, like, it just gives me a bit of a headache, like, I'm not gonna lie. I know the character's traditionally supposed to be really masculine, and people are gonna be like, Gracie, in Greek mythology, yeah, exactly, he's supposed to be masculine, but then you think, like, but this is too far, like, he looks almost ridiculous, he does not look like a real person. And, like,
his head's, like, completely flat.
Yeah, there's so much wrong with that. And like this whole idea of like, I kind of like the fact that like Meg is really like when he first saves in inverted commas.
Meg's like, I don't need a man to say get out of my face.
He's just like, I'm not a damsel, like literally leave me alone.
Yeah, and it's like, well, makes sense.
But yeah, I the thing that I don't know if I appreciate it or don't. I don't appreciate they don't acknowledge it, but I don't like how Hades basically uses Meg as like this honey trap almost.
Oh yeah, definitely.
This whole thing of like, well, you have to go and convince these people to be on my side, and then it's like, well, use your feminine wiles. It's like, what the hell? No.
It's kind of like, well, remember, I can kill you at any point, so don't test
Then
me.
Hades is another one of those characters who's very like feminine coded.
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah,
compared to, you look at him compared to Hercules. Hercules is all muscle.
Yeah.
He's like draped in this like cloth.
He's
then
got
he's like very like
fiery blue
exactly,
hair.
and he's very like his body is just like
he's
a blob,
almost curvy.
Yeah, he's like got like. And then just the way he talks as well, and he's always like almost flirting with Hercules at times, and you're like, that'd be fine if you weren't doing it just to make him the villain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then also he's like a Jewish stereotype.
Yes.
The amount he uses like weird Yiddish terms, and you're like, you're not Jewish though. You're just like adding that onto the feminine. Got to make him Jewish as well, and then he's the extra villainy. Like,
well, you know, there's that whole thing about Disney being like
anti-Semite. He may be gone, but his prejudices are still
ways
there.
are still gonna.
Good, thank God. I was worried that Disney was going to stop being anti-Semitic. I'm so glad.
Walt Disney's obviously been cryogenically frozen until all the Jews are gone. Then he's back.
Good luck, Disney. I'm sorry.
I think in there's this one bit where he deepens his voice, like he makes himself sound more masculine, like purposefully.
And it's just like, why?
You don't need to do that. You're already like, you're a boy. Like, why are you trying to deepen your voice to impress people? Like, just own it. Like, just
stop. Yeah.
And
like,
stop.
like as well, like what you were saying about Hades is like, Hades and Zeus, they're brothers, so that actually they should look similar. They look like the most polar opposite. Exactly. Hades again is like built like Hercules, super buff, super like I'm the god of lightning. I don't mess around.
Yeah.
And then you have Hades, who's like this curvy, flirty, Jewish gay dude.
But you could say that's the same with like Scar.
Yes.
In The Lion King.
Oh, 100%.
Obviously, there are people who say, "Oh, well, they're not actually meant to be brothers. It's more of a technical thing." But the point still being is that they're entirely different, and it serves a purpose that they're entirely different.
I think as well, like I always thought Scar was very feminine in the terms of like he would skulk around and have this very like feminine,
the way he like
gay,
and like even his voice, like Jeremy Irons compared to like James Earl Jones, there is such a difference in their voice, and you can tell that's to be done to show that Mufasa is so masculine and Scar's very feminine.
Mufasa's like so much bigger than
Scar
is. Like Scar's kind of like,
Scar's got the body of a female lion.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's like much slimmer, and he's got like the way he walks and he moves and the way he talks. Oh.
And as well, like I swear there's a part where they walk in and he's doing his nails or something.
Yeah,
like I really remember that. And it's like, I'm not saying that guys shouldn't do their nails, but like that's really a feminine character trait, isn't it? This whole like being
people would have gone, oh, like that's really feminine.
Yeah, and even in the second Lion King 2, which is best film of all time, and like there's that kid Kovu, but they make it very clear that is not his kid.
No,
but it's like there's no way he could have had a kid, and it's like why not? Because you don't want to call him gay or whatever, but at the same time you don't want to call him straight, and it's like he's just this asexual being, and that's what they all tend to be, these villains. Like the like masculine like hero or whatever can have an obvious like romantic interest,
love interest,
but the villain's always got to be asexual, but then at the same time really creepily sexual. Like they can't just be normal in any way in that regard, and it's like okay,
I appreciate that.
How
I think
that works.
Yeah, I think as well like that is a really common trait on almost all of the Disney villains that I can think of. It's all I agree. Like again with the Shadow Man, I always thought he was really creepily sexual.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, no, definitely.
But at the same time, he did have this really big like gay vibe of just like, not there's anything wrong with that. Obviously, I'm all for it. But at the same time, it was really like, I don't know. It was almost like, are you trying to be ironic or are you trying to be like? I don't know. It was really confusing for me.
I can't think of a villain. Like even in like Frozen, like Hans is interested in Anna, but like at the same time when he turns into this villain he's suddenly a lot more like sulky and campy, and he's like, if only somebody loved you. He's very like the way he moves, it suddenly changes the moment he's in his villain self. He's a lot more feminine, and it's like
whoa, like what happened? You just let in your inner drag queen apparently.
Yeah,
I agree. Like even in the more modern ones you just kind of like oh
dear,
cool. I mean same. And I'm trying to think, apart from Maleficent, I can't think of a female villain, and I'm really struggling.
I suppose Mother Gothel.
Oh, that's true.
But even then, like,
from
Yzma. Oh my god, she was a queen.
I love Yzma.
She's like she is a feminine woman.
She's so...
Like she's purple and
whole
like
idea
her little feather boas and everything like that. Just
this whole idea that she's so like ugly and old and like
everyone's
like disgusted by her.
I love her.
Yeah, she's honestly a bit of like, I feel like she is what most people think like a drag queen would look like.
Yeah. Her and like Ursula.
Yeah.
Like, that's like drag
queen.
Oh my gosh, but then Ursula's modelled after a drag queen.
Yeah.
Then it's like,
But I think as well, like, even like with The Little Mermaid, bringing it up, like, you have the, like, don't get me wrong, again, love The Little Mermaid, but this whole idea that, like,
she has to lose her voice so she can get legs, so she can go marry the prince. Like, no.
Okay.
There's just, there's a lot of issues that I find with that, and like when you look at like her body, again, I'm not obsessed with Disney characters' bodies, but it's just something you notice because she's not wearing a lot of clothes.
Exactly.
She's so skinny, and it's just like
insane.
She's
that doesn't make.
Child as well.
Yeah, she's 16. Which seems to be a very common age for like Disney
like
characters.
Down the middle.
I'm 16. Do I look like that? No, I don't think so.
Same. Like, you're at one end of the scale, I'm at the other. Like, she's... Yeah. That's what confuses me, because they either are, like, curvy, but not... Like, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, they have boobs.
Body proportions are never realistic.
Oh, 100%. Their body proportions are so out there. It's actually almost painful.
It does say a lot that pretty much every villain, like, female-wise,
they're
either, like, crazily skinny to, like, give
almost
that,
masculine,
like,
scary.
Or, like, Ursula's, like, this, like... the huge woman who like takes up like the whole screen when she's on it, sort of thing, and that's meant to like make her this villain because she's so like dominating as like fat and dominating as that character. But it's like no, because just on her own, even if she didn't have all that, she would still be evil. Yeah, exactly, because it's all about the voice work. But obviously they had to make her look this ugly creature compared to like Ariel, and it's like
that also kind of upsets me, the fact that like I like how Mother Gothel was like kind of attractive as the villain. I kind of respected that.
But then the whole problem was that she was
getting
ugly,
younger,
and she was keeping herself young, and then she was going to be old and ugly, and oh no, you can't get old, and it's like
like her whole idea behind why she kidnapped Rapunzel was the fact she didn't want to get older. You're just like, what?
Why?
Just why is that an issue? Why are we pushing this idea that women can't get older?
And then Entangled, like at the end, she has to make the ultimate sacrifice of cutting off her hair and making her look boyish. Oh no, she has short brown hair.
Yeah, that really upset me.
Like what? That doesn't mean anything.
She's a boy now. What?
Yeah, just because she has to cut off her hair, like her feminine thing. It's like, oh no, because it shouldn't. It doesn't really matter. Like,
yeah, I agree. I think that film, although again it's one of the newer ones, so I think it has less problems than the older ones, but at the same time there is a lot of like gender encoding and this whole idea of like toxic masculinity.
It does
and
fall
like
into that like Born Sexy Yesterday thing where it's like she's so naive, it just makes her more attractive to everyone because she doesn't know anything, so it's like, oh, she's so adorable and cute, but at the same time sexualized by like the men around her.
Definitely. And like this whole thing of like her being like you said, that really, really innocent and like not understanding, but at the same time, like I feel like Flynn Rider really tries to take advantage of her, and I don't like obviously not in a sexual way, but at the same time, like you shouldn't be pushing this idea that it's okay to take advantage of women if they don't understand. Like that's always been something that I've really struggled with that film, is like the fact that he tries to trick her and makes her feel bad about like being away from home.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like actually that kind of pushes this idea on young people that like if a man tells you something you have to listen because he's obviously right, and he's like gonna emotionally blackmail you, which like
the men's always right, men are always right, never wrong.
Definitely 100%. Like look at Donald Trump, everything he says is correct.
I've never heard a wrong thing come out of his mouth.
Not at all.
I would like to propose a Disney film with no princesses in.
Yes.
Oh so another film I researched is Big Hero 6.
Yes.
Nice.
And it's a bit weird actually because I didn't even notice, but the directors for Princess and the Frog and Moana are exactly the same.
Okay.
Which could be because it's a princess film, whereas both the directors in Big Hero 6 they're completely different.
Yeah.
And on my list, they made the most in the box office out of all of them. They made like $657 million from that film, which is like crazy.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really good film.
I agree.
Because the main character is a boy, and it's not just it's a boy. Like there we go.
Yeah.
It's kind of. It's a boy. He's really, really smart. Like they say he graduated high school when he was 13. And he was like 14 in the film.
Yeah.
another spoiler alert, like his brother dies in a fire.
Yeah.
And you can see like actively
the depression,
you can see him, like his depression, you can see him mourning.
Yeah.
And that's something that you don't see in any of the males in any of the Disney films.
Yeah, I agree.
Which I think makes it so good and so different.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he goes to take revenge
how it changes.
It's like the two female scientists, like you don't have that in the other Disney films.
No.
Like those are truly like both independent women. Like one of them, I think Honey Lemon is more like she's more girly.
She's more feminine, but
but then again, like she's more like I'm doing like chemistry. Like she's not, I'm not saying that like doing things like cosmetology, like that's something that like is stereotypical and shouldn't be done, but it's something that's a bit different than what you'd think she'd be doing. Just by the look of her. I think the other girl, Go-Go, she's doing like
engineering.
She's doing engineering. Like she's trying to engineer like her own motorbike. Like it's like absolutely like it's crazy.
It's bashing those gender stereotypes,
really
which I'm a fan of. I also kind of like how in that film, like a lot of the men are quite feminine, but it's not a bad thing.
Oh yeah.
Like Wasabi is so feminine because he's like very. He's what I like to call a mock OCD character.
Yeah, he's like everything has
to be perfect, which isn't what OCD's actually like. Spoiler alert, guys. That's like such a it's such a common misconception. It upsets me so much when people are like, "Oh my god, I have OCD." I'm like, "Yeah, but you don't because you don't even know what it is. You're just looking at the media's perception of what OCD is." But okay, but he's like a mock OCD, but also he's like very feminine. He's very much like even his voice is very like.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't think we should do this, guys.
Damon Marlon Wayans voice.
Yeah,
nice.
So
we stand.
Yes, but yeah. So I kind of, but also like his physicality, he's huge. But again, it's like that kind of.
He's got like the broad shoulders.
Yeah, and the tall,
like,
but he's.
He's kind of got like the slim waist as well. Like it's kind of really confusing.
He's shaped like a triangle.
Yeah, you don't know. And I was like, are they trying to portray him as masculine or feminine?
Yeah, I kind of like how there's a good combo though. Like he's portrayed as like physically masculine, but also he's quite effeminate. Like in his voice and the way he's portrayed is quite feminine. But that's not a bad thing. It's all about how like they use their superpowers and they use their differences for good. Which I can really respect.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
But yeah, I like Big Hero 6 a lot. Like you said, I feel like it really pushes that idea of like men grieve too, and how like actually it's okay for guys to be showing their feelings.
And especially it being a young, like a young
character, a young teenage boy. Yeah,
it's just, I think it's better for the audience because it is going to be like Disney is usually like the audience is usually younger people.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that especially like younger boys would fit into that demographic. And I think it would be really, really good for them to be like, oh, well, like, if something happens, I'm allowed to be sensitive. Yeah. I'm allowed to cry. I'm allowed to mourn over if anything happens in my life. And, like, it's crap.
It's fine.
Because they're not trying to be like, because here is not like, oh, well, my brother's just died. Oh, well, it's fine.
It's cool, guys. I'll just work it out.
Let me mourn for a week. No, he doesn't mourn for a week. He mourns for, like, months and months. And in the end, it's like, yeah, well, you kind of need to go to school. Like, you can't just sit around. I think the end of the film as well is really good because I think he loses Baymax and then you can see him again actively mourning the loss of his friend again, and I think also having Baymax in the film, he's a male sidekick. He doesn't have a lot of depth to him, but then
he doesn't
need to. Yeah. He's a personal care assistant. Like that in itself is like it's great.
He's a android. He doesn't need that background, but he has just enough, in my opinion, that he's a great character.
Oh yeah.
And you do feel like an emotional connection to him, and when he loses him, I was crying in the cinema at that point. I was so upset by that.
The film's so friendly.
Yeah, but I kind of liked as well like how he used his motivation after he lost Baymax to make another Baymax. Like this whole idea. I think as well, like it shows that it's okay to grieve, but it also shows like that, like the fact that he doesn't eat and the fact that he's like isolating himself. Like that's a really common part of the grieving process, but also how he has the motivation after the second time of losing someone. He's like, I have the motivation to actually do something and make myself feel better.
I'm gonna fix this now.
Yeah, which is a great message I think to be sending to people.
Yeah, no, definitely, because in the film, like the purpose is he's not taking revenge on who killed his brother. No. Someone stole his invention. He's trying to find out who it is. He kind of like moves away from the death of his brother. I think is a good and a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's good because you can see him like he's really getting up, like he's getting on with his life. Like
he's got a new focus.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a new focus. Like it's like he's got a whole new interest in life. But then it's kind of like you've kind of forgotten that like your brother's dead because halfway in the film like he uses Baymax to his advantage, and he just used them for like to fight to fight the villain. They're like, well, no, we didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, you can see how his character turns dark, which again I think is really interesting. It kind of pushes this whole idea of like good and bad is like it's not black and white.
Yeah, it's not like two different people. Yeah, it's people themselves. They hold that characteristic.
It's about a fluctuation, isn't it? Like it's a constant fluctuation between like your moral compass and what you do is good and what you do is bad. And there's not necessarily. I feel like in that film again, even though there is technically a villain, you can understand where he's coming from. What he's trying to do is he's trying to make it so like he is trying to take revenge against the people that like lost his daughter, but at the same time you can have that emotional understanding on what he's talking about and why he is behaving the way he is. And like I kind of like the similarities between him and Hero because you kind of like
they both lost
someone and they're both trying to take revenge.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's that moment of clarity for Hero where he's like, oh my god, like if I don't stop, that's who I'm going to be. That I'm fighting almost against myself. And I think that was a really smart message. But yeah, like I really love the female characters in that movie because there's such a lack of female scientists in the world.
Yeah, and it's showing. Not just young boys. Oh, you're allowed to be sensitive with young girls. It's oh my gosh,
you can be smart.
You can be smart. Like you can be pretty and you can be smart.
Yeah,
like, you don't just have to be just smart. You can do literally whatever you want.
And I kind of like the fact that Honey Lemon is feminine because again, it's this whole idea of like, oh, you're a bad feminist if you wear makeup or if you wear a dress or whatever. It's like you have to be this one type to like be this thing, but I kind of love how she's feminine because she's like, actually, you know what, I'm not going to give up who I am so I can be a scientist.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But at the same time, I like how they show Go-Go because also she's got this whole like goth emo exterior, which I kind of really appreciate.
I do think Go-Go though falls into like that stereotype of like the rebellious Asian girl with coloured hair. Because it's like literally any example of like a rebellious Asian girl in like media, she's gonna have coloured hair. Like like in like Glee, the token Asian girl has to have coloured hair.
Yeah. Tina,
like,
she starts out
just has coloured hair.
Yeah.
And she just, but then she's not even rebellious in any way. They don't give her that. They literally just put it in there to give her something that's identifiable.
Yeah.
I think Go-Go sort of goes against it a bit more than any other, but it's still that idea that to be that they can't look plain. They can't look plain.
Yeah, it's either they're really, really girly or they're like this.
Yeah, I do get what you mean. I agree. I think like I kind of like the fact that the cultures are really mixed in this film. I like how it was set in a fake place, San Francisco, which I want to live in San Francisco. It's so bad.
It's so cool.
But at the same time, I liked how like they had the Asian people, but then they also had like, you know, like obviously Honey Lemon's white, Wasabi's black. Like they have such a really good mixture of different.
It's a very diverse film.
It's a diverse film, ethnically diverse.
Like, Hero's parents are dead. Like you kind of just like it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, you don't necessarily need to know.
Yeah.
You just know
the big loss is his brother.
Yeah.
Exactly.
His parents are dead, but then he had his brother, so everything
was okay.
I think losing his brother for him is really what kind of.
It was the gravity. That was the thing that I like as well how they, you know, we talk a lot about how like, oh, they lose their parents and it's really sad. Lads in every movie, but you never the only film I can think of where you really see the effects of that is The Lion King. Because Simba leaves the Pride Lands because he feels like he killed his dad. So I feel like that's the only other film where you can really see the effects of how like losing a parent can really, or losing just someone who you like love really closely can really upset you and really kind of destroy your whole self-image. So I really liked how they showed the kind of like how he went from before to after, and how much of like a good influence his brother was in his life, and you can totally understand like the fact that like at the beginning of the film
his brother saves him from being beaten up
by this like fight club robot bot fighters, which is like incredible. I kind of like the fact as well that Hero, he's really, really smart, but he struggles with his own identity. He's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I finished high school at 13. I'm just like waiting around. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here.
It's like, I'm just going to do something illegal instead. Let's
like,
just do that.
Oh, this is fun, and I like doing it because I like taking the mick out of like big macho dudes. But I kind of like the fact that he struggles a little bit with his identity because I think again
he's like this little skinny,
scrawny little kid, and no one's going to think he's smart.
He has literally no clue what he wants to do with his life, and I think again that is okay. It's okay. Especially at that age,
to just
not know what you want to do with your life, because I think especially now, like there's so much school, pressure. Like year 8, it's like you need to know what you want to do for your options, and you need to know now. Otherwise,
your whole life's gonna go into like a mess.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and I think that's so good for him because he was kind of like, I don't know what I want to do, so I'm just gonna kind of not do anything.
Yeah, he's probably like the most realistic example of like a kid in film.
Oh yeah,
which is funny because he's like a super genius. So it's like not super realistic, but the whole idea of him not knowing. Yeah,
literally. Oh god.
And again, like you said, like showing that it's okay not to know. Like it's not okay. It's not pushing this idea that it's okay not to do anything, but it's pushing the idea that it's okay to like experiment with different things and figure out what you want to do. I think, like you said before, like the target demographic, that's really pushing that idea that it's okay to not know.
Yeah.
And I think that, like you said, there's so much pressure in school and like life these days that by a certain age you have to figure out what you want to do for your whole life.
Exactly.
And I think it's a generational thing because I feel like now you don't really have jobs for life anymore.
No.
You
It's
can
like, and
have
so
lots of
many
different
jobs
careers.
as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't have to like train as one thing and then be that thing forever. I mean, you can be, but it's not like that conclusive. You can move around and you can change your mind. But I think older generations, that was the way that like you work in a factory, that's all you're going to do for the rest of your life.
Exactly. Now it's like you can be a nurse, you can be a doctor, you can be an artist, like you can be literally whatever, like you can be in 2 different careers within like the next
5 years.
Yeah, exactly. Within 5 years you could have done like 4 different jobs doing 4 different like completely separate careers, which I think now is really, really good, but then it's also what makes it more
confusing,
difficult and a lot more confusing for people, like young people in this day and age, to be like, I want to do this. Because if you want to be an artist, it's like, okay, what kind of an artist do you want to be? Do you want to be like the traditional? Do you want to be a digital artist? Do you want to be doing this, and this? Like, there's so many.
It's also trying to make like a living out of certain things.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
But yeah, so I do really like the fact they really pushed that whole idea of like, also something I wanted to talk about. Sorry, totally forgot. I wanted to talk about hobbies of the different characters in Disney because I find that there's not a lot of male examples of creative hobbies. The only one I can think of is Naveen, who's really into music.
Yeah.
But it seems like and then like the females, the only princess that I can think of that had like a more masculine hobby would be like Merida, who was into bow and arrows and like all the cool traditional Scottish things, you know. I'm so for her being the top princess. Again, one of the only films where you don't need a man.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole film was
the villain's a bear.
Yeah.
the villain is a man who gets turned into a bear, and her mother's also a bear.
I love that.
Her brother's turned into bear. So
oh my god, the brothers that are bears.
I love that.
Literally, I thought I was going to cry.
It's
so adorable.
Brave is such a good film.
It's so underrated.
Exactly, and it's like, oh well, we're gonna put you in an arranged marriage, and she's kind of like, no, I'm not doing this.
She doesn't want it.
She was never okay with it from the start. She's like, yeah, well, I'm gonna fight for my own hand.
Yeah,
I'm making sure I win, so I don't have to marry any of you. So
that part's incredible. I also love the fact that like it's probably the only different, and I know people might disagree with this, but it's probably the only like Disney film with princesses that they don't need a man. So like even in Moana, she has to have Maui who comes to help her save the day. Even in Princess and the Frog, she needs him to help her save the day. Even in Frozen, like they get help from like Kristoff and like Olaf, and it's like,
oh, but you don't really need that.
No, exactly. So although like I get what they're trying to do, they're trying to push these more female empowering characters. Like Merida is the epitome of like almost like a gender neutral in the term of her hobbies. She doesn't need to be this ladylike woman.
She'll wear dresses, but then again, she doesn't want to be
constrained.
She doesn't want to do her hair. She doesn't want to do any of that. And then it's like in the film, she puts a bow and arrow on the table, and the mom's like, no weapons on the table. She's like, oh crap! Like, it's just something that you don't really see. You don't really see the women characters that are like, we like men things, and it's fine.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
But then it's also we like more feminine things. Again, it's fine. Like there's no.
Yeah, it's okay, and I also love the fact that in that the bad guy isn't feminine.
Yeah,
it's a bear.
It's a bear.
Like I get the mum as a bear is still quite feminine, but it's because her character's feminine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like she's bad because she's feminine.
Oh no, like
her whole character's supposed to be feminine.
Like the whole film, she spends like trying to make Merida like
this traditional young lady.
Yeah. But she's not even doing it because she just wants her to be feminine. She knows it's a practicality.
Yeah,
she needs to find a husband.
That's what happened
for the
to me, so that's what I need to be doing.
It's all about, I think she's trying to like push these social norms on her. And again, like I think it's almost like a metaphor for society, like this whole idea of pushing these gender stereotypes on young people, saying you have to be like this, you have to dress like this.
It just makes them go to a witch.
Yeah.
And turn their mother into a bear.
And buying tainted cakes that make you like, I mean, I mean, if someone was pushing me into arranged marriage, I think I would go to a witch. Like,
oh yeah, no, definitely.
I can totally relate to what she does.
First, like, solution.
Yeah.
You want to go into a witch? I'm going to turn you into a bear and your life's over. So bye.
Yeah. Okay. So bye bye. But yeah, I kind of love the fact that Mor'du is like a really scary masculine character, but he's still bad. I'm like, yes, thank God.
Even him when he was human, like you can see
how
like
he's
dark
huge
and scary he was. Like he's like 8 feet tall and he's got like muscles and he's all like big and
really
scary. It's just,
and I kind of love the fact in that movie about how like the dad is such like a sweet guy.
He's
huge
for marriage. Yeah, he's like, yeah, well, maybe you should just listen to her. Maybe she just doesn't want to get married. Maybe you should just, like, sit down and talk to her. And then he's
like the antithesis of toxic masculinity
when it comes
to Disney
100%.
He's the one that buys her, like, he gets
her the first bow
for her birthday. Like, he's like, you know what? I don't want you to be feminine. Here's a bow and arrow. Like,
you live you.
Yeah. And she's like, oh my God, like, it's amazing. Yeah. And I think he's just so different to, like, the other like parents in Disney, if you know what I mean, because
I feel like they're so much more involved in her life than actually in any other Disney film. They just don't really give a shit.
He fought a bear and he got his leg bitten off of that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
pretty masculine.
Yeah. And even though he is quite masculine, like
he still has this soft, sensitive side.
Like he's like, yeah, well, you need to listen to each other, otherwise it won't work.
Yeah.
Like he's not kind of like, yeah, well, I want her to get married as well, and we're gonna force you to get married. It's kind of like, yeah, well, if she's against it, you have to kind of respect the fact that she's against it. Give her chance to say what she wants to say. If you don't agree with it, compromise. But just don't force her to get married.
Exactly. One of my favourite parts of that whole film is when all the leaders of the different tribes come and they're all like arguing and fighting, and the queen is the one who is like, right,
listen,
stop.
Shut up. Like,
it's great.
All of you stop. And then he goes, yes, dear, sorry, dear. And it's this whole subservient thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, thank you for that. Because compared to him, she's so small and she's so like dainty, but it's the fact that she still has this kind of like, they have a power dynamic that, I'm not saying that women should be on top, but I think it should be an equal footing, but it's the fact that it's a real big change from like...
They usually are, because usually the mothers are all kind of like...
she'd just be sitting in the corner like, whatever. But no,
if you look at like Sleeping Beauty, I know it's an old one, but like when the witch comes in, it's like the King Philip's like, not King Philip, sorry, Prince Philip is the prince, but the king is like, what the hell's going on, get out. The queen just sits there. I'm like, if that was my baby, I would be like
freaking out.
I would like karate chop Maleficent in the throat. I would not be okay with like some woman coming over. You can take my child, it's not a problem. Cool. Yeah, like that whole thing of like her just not doing anything. Yeah, it's like
just
awful.
really annoying. And it's kind of, I think it's different in Tangled though. Like her mother, like obviously she didn't know her child had been like taken.
But it is a more equal footing in like the more modern ones.
And you can see especially her dad in that film, he's actively mourning for the loss, because he thinks she's dead, but for the loss of his daughter, which you don't see in some of the other films. Like some of the other films, like the father,
they get angry but they don't mourn.
Exactly. It's like in Mulan, like when she goes to fight for her dad, he gets so angry. He's like, "Oh my God,
you dishonour us.
Like, what is your problem? Like, you completely dishonour me. I'm disowning you. You're not my child anymore."
Yeah.
Then like Tangled, I know it's more of one of the more stereotypical like princess films.
Yeah.
But like you can still see the dad.
That dad is more sensitive.
Yeah, exactly. He's like actively mourning for his child.
Yeah.
The mother, obviously, they can't do anything because they don't know where she is, but they did send people to look for her.
Yeah.
They tried their best. Yeah.
Exactly. So like it's only right that he kind of in that film, like the parents both have like an equal kind of, they stand, like they know where they stand, like it's not kind of the king's up here and like the queen's kind of a bit lower down.
Subservient.
It's like they're on like an equal level.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. I'm glad that you brought up Mulan as well. I like that film. I respect it, but there's still parts of it that are very upsetting for me.
Yeah, it's where they're like, you're a woman, you can't be in the army. That's not allowed. But then again, it's looking at the historical
context.
Oh, 100%.
In historical context, it's probably one of the more realistic.
Oh, 100%. I think it is realistic. It's but there are a lot of lines in that, like in the songs and stuff. There's this, like, one of my favourite songs in the whole thing is when they're going to meet the matchmaker. And it's like,
oh gosh,
this is what you give me to work with. Well, honey, I've seen worse. But there's a line in it that makes me so upset, which is, scarier than the Undertaker, we are meeting our matchmaker. Yeah. So they're basically comparing being married to death. I'm like, that's so upsetting. And I get the cultural context and the historical context, and that's how it was.
It's still really bad.
I don't like this idea. They're pushing this idea on kids that like, like
when you get
it's
married,
scarier than the Undertaker. Your life's over.
Like,
yeah.
I just think it's.
I mean, I do respect it as a film. I like it. personally, but at the same time, it's definitely a bit questionable at certain points.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
And again, it's this whole idea of like that she kind of, I don't know, she seems to like. The thing that kind of upsets me a little bit is she seems to be she doesn't have any natural skills. She seems to join the army because she has to, and then she gains skills from that. But it's like she's like a really plain character. She doesn't have any kind of substance, in my opinion, at the beginning. Like, she's bad at being
like she's a bit of a hot mess. But that's literally
literally same. But
like, she's a hot mess. That's it. Like,
she has no other characteristics. That's positive.
They could give her more in that sense, but I suppose it's fair enough to say she wouldn't have like any like trait, because like it makes sense for Merida to be able to like shoot a bow and arrow and that because she's been allowed, but I don't think Mulan would be allowed to do anything other than do this matchmaker stuff and be raised her entire life to get a husband. But then she's not good at that. What else is there for her to do?
Yeah, definitely.
Just a bit,
but again, I like the fact that she defies those gender stereotypes. She struggles with her own identity. She's very courageous in the fact that she's like,
and she saves the prince.
Yeah,
well, say the prince, but,
the general.
Yeah, she saves the general. Like when they get into an avalanche, she's the one like, oh, like,
she's straight into action. Yeah,
I need to save his life. Like, I need to do it now. But then when she gets stabbed and they find out she's a woman, like, oh my god, she's a woman.
My favourite one is when the creepy guy, who's he called? The one that's in blue and doesn't look Asian whatsoever.
I know who you're talking about.
He's just like, she's a woman, and it's like, exactly. Whoa. It's like, okay, that's nice, but I mean, I like the fact they stay true to the whole idea. If they did find a woman in the army, they would kill her. But the thing of like, oh well, she saved my life, so we're just going to abandon her here. It's like, it's a bit dark.
We're just going to leave her in this mountain covered in snow with no food, no nothing. We're just going to leave her to starve. She can just die. It's fine.
I like the fact he thought he was being so courteous by saying like, oh yeah, I won't kill her. I'm just going to leave her in the freezing cold mountains with no nothing, and then she'll be fine. It's like, no, you're basically sentenced to a more painful death, but okay. But again, with that film, like, it kind of does go against what we've been talking about. The bad guy isn't necessarily traditionally feminine, but at the same time, I don't know.
He's more of like, he's not really, there's no real reason for him. Yeah. He's more there just to give them a bad guy.
Yeah. It's kind of like,
because that's not what the story is about.
No, really. He's like the leader of the Huns and the Huns are invading China. It's like he's like,
it's like
he's there, but just so that
they can have a bad guy.
He has something to fight over.
Yeah,
just so that there's a reason. Like, for the film, if you get one.
It's not so much of like a traditional bad guy versus good guy. Exactly. It's more about society and how she maybe doesn't fit into society, which I can totally relate to.
I suppose I've always found it funny though in that film that Li Shang is attracted to Ping, and he doesn't know Ping is a girl at any point. And it's like, I feel like Disney did not realise what they were doing when they did that. They were like implying, oh yeah, he's like at least bisexual.
Yeah.
And that he's attracted to women and men, and then like now in the remake they're not even putting him in it.
Yeah,
and they're like not
that's
having
really
any
upsetting.
of those aspect.
That's literally like not having like the genie in Aladdin. Like, what are you gonna do? Like,
and it was like, you realise that you accidentally made a bisexual character, so you were like, let's just not have him.
Let's just erase her. From, like, everything. Like, let's not do that.
I mean, it is quite upsetting. Yeah, I agree, and I kind of like the fact that he was attracted to Ping as a boy. Like I was like totally feeling that. Wow, this whole idea of like actually it's more about, it's not necessarily about gender. It's just about the fact that he was attracted to his character and the way, and I am going to use his because otherwise I'll get confused. I'm not saying that Mulan is trans. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying this whole character of Ping and the fact that he was so noble and he tried so hard. He kind of fell in love with that aspect, not the fact that she was a woman or a man.
Yeah, it was kind of just unimportant in that regard.
But then they accidentally made a bisexual character. I bet everyone at Disney was like, oh my god!
And then in the sequel as well, it is like Mulan is extra feminine.
Yeah,
and, like,
just to equal it out.
She's wearing skirts.
Yeah, because they were like, we need to like make it so she's very feminine.
She's actually a girl. She's a girl. Boys.
Yeah,
she likes boys.
Yeah,
she doesn't like girls.
Yeah, it's cool, guys. Like, neither of them are bi. It's fine. Don't worry. We're not supporting that LGBTQ movement.
We don't do that here.
We don't do that stuff here.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means. LGBT.
What? What does that acronym mean? I'm so confused.
Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of brings us to probably one of the last things I wanted to talk about, which is why are there no gay princesses? What is going on?
I think that Disney are just afraid that they're going to have a good influence.
Yeah.
On,
they like to queer bait though, like no one's business. Elsa, they're always like, oh, maybe we're going to give her a girlfriend in the next one. I'm like, no, you're not.
You're not. Like, you're just trying to make. You were just trying to make us like angry like queers. You're just trying to make us happy, basically.
In Finding Dory. There's a lesbian couple, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's a lesbian couple with a child. Like, what the hell's going on?"
They're in it for like 5 seconds.
Literally,
exactly. It's like, "Oh my god, it's an apocalypse. Like, the world's gonna end. We're all gonna go into oblivion."
They didn't show the remake of Beauty and the Beast in Russia. They closed it all down because Nafu is gay in it.
Yeah,
but then that was just they hyped that up so much.
Oh my god, yeah, they made it
he
sound
was dancing
like
with a guy.
Yeah, and like the fact that he looked a little bit like he was in love with Gaston, but not really.
Well, yeah, we all know he's in love with Gaston. Like,
Yeah.
that's
It's
just an
kinda
accepted
obvious,
fact.
like,
But I feel like
cartoon
the
one.
original did a better job of expressing that than the remake
definitely.
does. Like,
He has his own song, like.
Yeah. The remake kind of upset me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like
I think
there was no real reason why it upset me. I just prefer the original.
Yeah, I think it's because we all because Disney is like, it's so old. Like we all kind of, that's what we know. That's what we grew up with, and then it's kind of, why are you remaking all these films? Like they remade Cinderella, like Beauty and the Beast. Like I think they just kind of need to, like they're remaking Aladdin.
Oh,
I mean,
God,
not gonna
be a
lie,
train
it's
wrack.
got Will Smith in, so.
I'm sorry.
But he's not even blue.
No, he is. He is going to be blue. He said that was just a picture of when he isn't. Like, gonna
I'm
be
sorry,
blue
but I'm.
humour.
Hopefully that's when he's free, because otherwise I'm not interested.
Like, I'm not gonna
I'm
lie. Obviously, I
excited.
will see it, but it's like one of those things I don't know if I'm gonna be happy about.
Yeah.
But as well, I kind of like the fact that the characters are actually gonna be Asian.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah,
yay,
because you know that would be a good idea.
finally the
That would be a
characters are
good
actually gonna be
idea
what
instead
race
of,
they
like,
are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That whitewash is like
It's
it's
kinda like-
too much for me.
Yeah, well, but they live in Arabia. Oh, well, we're gonna make them all white.
Yeah.
They're gonna be pale as
Exactly.
anything.
I mean,
Like there's not snow. I mean,
But
snow,
honestly, I don't
but
think
there's not
anyone's
sun.
ever going to really like a Disney remake.
Yeah, exactly.
The only one I'm like alright with is Maleficent, because that's
yeah,
like
that's
that's
really
different,
good.
because that's not even Sleeping Beauty. That's
it's
like
Maleficent.
its
It's
own
her
thing.
story.
It's
Yeah.
her whole thing. Like, I think that film is really, really good because Maleficent is terrifying. In that
Yeah.
film.
She's that icon.
And it's really, really like.
And then it
it's
does
amazing.
sort of doesn't have that stupid, the prince wakes her up with a kiss, even though they've never met. It has her
yeah.
being like the person that
Yeah.
actually has
Friggin'
that love bit. And I was
love
like,
that.
that's great, because like that makes sense. It wouldn't just be some rando guy that she met a few times. It'd be the person.
They're kind of
who...
taking Mick out of the old Cinderella,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh yeah, this guy she met in the forest once, who apparently she fell in love with. It's like, no, Maleficent has been there her whole life, basically looking after her. Because let's be honest, the fairies are so effing dumb. It
Like, she
literally
saves
causes me
her more
pain.
times
It's like when it's like in the cartoon version, like, what colour should we, pink or blue? Like, they're like, it has to be pink. Why does it have to be pink?
Yeah.
Why can it not be blue?
They're all like mentally incapacitated.
Yeah.
And I'm very concerned
They're
about the
just a
fairies
bit-
at this point.
And it's like they're all like, oh, like we need to clean up like now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does a better job of showing that she's not actually angry at like the Sleeping Beauty in any sense
No.
of the word. She's
Yeah,
actually angry
exactly.
at her dad for being like a massive dick. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he like took her wings.
Yeah,
and all that
like-
sort of horrible stuff.
Yeah, he took her wings and then he like burnt her with iron.
Yeah, exactly.
He told her like they were in love
they
and then
fell in love, and he was like, oh, you know what, I really love you. And then he married the queen.
He
Like,
cared more about like being a king
he
and
goes
all that
back
stuff.
and like says, I'm just warning you because they're gonna come after you. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna steal your effing
Yeah.
wings in the middle of the night. It's like, seriously, it's definitely questionable. But yeah, I like that movie a lot. I think
Yeah,
it
that's
definitely
the only
is.
good one.
It's pushing that idea of that. Actually, I like when the characters in films aren't so evil.
Yeah.
I like it when they have some kind of like reasoning behind them.
Yeah,
when
'cause,
they're
like,
not
the
just
best
evil
villains are at
because
least-
they're evil.
yeah, they're at least
Like,
slightly
Maleficent-
likeable.
Yeah.
Exactly, like Maleficent, she's evil because
She's
the
had
guy
a
she fell in love with, like, corrupted her. Like,
Yeah.
he took her
he
wings.
screwed her over basically.
Yeah.
Exactly. How was she not going to be mad at him?
Yeah, like
Exactly.
again,
It's just, what?
Big Hero 6, the guy lost his daughter. That's why
Yeah,
he's
it
pissed
makes
off.
sense.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I really like that, and like I wasn't gonna bring this up, and I'm not gonna bring it up a lot because technically it counts. But in Marvel, like I'm not gonna
No,
bring
we
them
won't go
among
too
Marvel.
far into it.
Yeah, but like with Thanos, the fact that the fact that although he is evil, it's the whole thing of like he's trying to save half the universe.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like relate. It reminds me a lot of like eco-terrorists.
Yeah.
This whole idea of like
I'm
I'm gonna
completely
hurt
wrong,
people.
but I get why you do it.
I'm gonna hurt people to
But I
save
have
the
a-
environment.
Yeah, but I have a reason behind it.
Yeah,
like-
so I don't agree with it. And again, I'm not
Yeah.
going to get so into it, but I just thought I'd make that comparison of like actually kind of understanding where villains are coming from.
Yeah.
And like with Lawrence in like The Princess and the Frog, like
he's
horrible, but he just has had like he's just
And
a
he's
bit
just had a bad life.
Yeah.
Like he hated himself. It was like the Shadow Man's like, yeah, well, your mother hates you,
Yeah.
your brother, your sister hates you.
and if you
If you had a
got
wife,
she'd
she'd hate you as well.
It's like,
and it's just
oh,
like, we're
cheers.
kind of just lowering the self-esteem. No
Yeah.
wonder he wants to like kill the prince because he's gonna hate
Yeah,
him.
I mean, he doesn't really want to kill the prince. He just wants
wants
a
to
better
be-
life.
yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
don't think that's unnecessary. I mean, I know Lawrence isn't the main bad guy in it, but at the same time, like I can I can understand why he would feel the way that he feels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because also Naveen is such a prick in the beginning of that film.
Oh,
He like kisses the guy's like, dance on me, fat man, throw shat, and it's just horrible. I'm like, no. Like, I get that he's a servant, but treat your servants nicely, guys.
Maybe then he wouldn't want to trick you into becoming a fraud.
100%. Yeah. But yeah, so I do think that I like it when they bring in this whole idea. And again, oh my god, Moana. I know we haven't talked about it a lot.
I love Moana.
But like Moana, it's sometimes questionable, but the fact that she's like Polynesian, they stick to the Polynesian culture to the T. She's not skinny. She's like that girl thick. She's thick. She's what a Polynesian woman would look like.
Yeah, exactly.
Her hair is like exquisite.
Yeah, like,
and it looks like what a Polynesian's hair.
Out on this film, like they kind of went, you know what?
We're not going to make her this skinny little woman.
If she's Polynesian, she's Polynesian. She's not Polynesian, but she's gonna have like straight hair.
Yeah,
no.
Like,
we're not gonna.
I feel like what she should have been like what Tiana was. I feel like you said, because the directors are the same. I bet that's what they wanted Tiana to be.
Exactly.
But
but because they were like, oh, like,
maybe they just they couldn't do it for whatever reason. You know, there's like the directors don't make all decisions in film. The producers probably have more power over certain things. So maybe Disney were trying to be like, oh, we can't be too outrageous. But with Moana, they were like pushed. Like
everyone on Moana had such respect for the culture. I mean, like Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote the songs, but at the same time he was constantly consulting with Polynesian people on, does this sound like what your
something
like,
that
music
you
would be?
And
all the like rhythms and tunes, right? And it's like there was obviously so much respect put into that film.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. The fact that like how much that, like you said, respected the culture, but also like the fact that like, oh my god, the grandma. I'm in love with this woman.
Yeah, I love
like
her.
the crazy old grandma is just incredible.
She's kind of like, you go, you sell the ocean, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's
you
cool,
do whatever you want.
And then like her dad's like, no, I don't think so.
But I love the fact that the reason he doesn't want her to do it is nothing to do with the fact she's a girl.
Yeah, it justifies his.
He literally doesn't want her to get hurt. That's it.
He justifies it exactly. He justifies his fear. That's what makes me so happy. The fact that she is going to be the chief and she doesn't need to be
and it's not
a queen
questioned at all that she would be a woman.
Chief. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, she's a woman. She's gonna have to be a queen. No, she's a chief.
She's a chief.
And that's fine.
Like,
I just love that. You know, there was a few parts of that film where I was like, some of it's a little bit questionable, but at the same time, I did love that. But again, with the villain, I loved the fact that it turned out to be like, you know, the lava monster was actually like, you know, the creator of the worlds, and it's just because
Mao stole her heart.
Yeah.
Like, if you steal someone's heart, they're not going to be very happy. They're probably going to be dead, but also not going to be very happy.
Yeah, but I love the fact that they justified why she was upset, and you can sit there and go, yeah, I would be upset as well.
Yeah,
but also they justified why Maui did it, because he wanted to be loved by people. And he wanted to give them the heart of the ocean.
He'd been abandoned by
his mother.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So he's going to be like, oh yeah, well I want to impress these people.
A chance at love,
as well.
100%. I just love how they. To me, there's no bad guy in that film.
No.
The closest thing to bad guy are the Coconut Pirates.
Yeah. And
Tagatoa.
Tamatoa.
Yeah.
I love Tamatoa.
Yes.
Again, that's something that's wrong with it, because he's so like queer coded. He's amazing, but he's.
I feel like he gets it's less like awful, because at the end of the day, it probably could. They just don't give him the chance to say, like I'm a gay crab.
I'm a gay icon.
I'm a gay crab.
I'm that queer icon where it's like yes. Yeah, I agree. I think it is like, although I didn't have a huge problem with it. I did love the character, but at the same time, it's like a little bit like they should have.
Yeah, given the chance, I imagine there would have been more to do with him.
Yeah, but I love the fact that
he's
his
like,
voice.
Oh
my gosh, that song.
It's
because
he actually sounds like that as well. The voice actor Jermaine Clement, he just sounds like that.
That's him basically.
So
yeah,
like, I love that voice.
But yeah, I like how like he is very. But actually, I kind of like the fact they don't shy away from how like effeminate he is. They don't kind of do half and half. Like he calls her babe and stuff like that.
I love it.
Like it's like just stick to one eye, babe. And it's like I can't concentrate if you keep switching. Just stick to one eye. I'm like, yes, same. But yeah, I do love that song, and like how narcissistic he is, and how he kind of is just, I don't know, he's just really funny and really cool. But again, he's not even that evil. Like he is, but he's not.
It's just like survival of the fittest down there, you know.
Yeah.
You just got to do what you can.
I mean, he did eat his grandma, which is a little bit intense.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite lines. Is like, oh, your grandma told you that you were beautiful. I ate my grandma, and it took me 3 days. She was a big woman, and I'm like, oh my god, like.
Well, that's a big mood.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think we're pretty much.
Yeah.
I think
we've been going for a good while.
Yeah, I think we may need to stop.
It's been longer than 45 minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed. And this was us talking about Disney gender stereotypes.